I heard one this morning when I was getting in my car to come here. The governor was on the radio saying buy local, it's just that simple, and says if we just spend 10% more of our money on local products, we will generate about $100 million in economic activity, which goes back in part to the question that you raised about the economics of it all. But there's a couple things. One is the 10% buy local was a figure that was come up with from Doug Hoffer, who some of you know. He's a policy analyst from Burlington who's done a lot of work for the livable wage campaign and others. So the governor has taken that message, that number, and used it in his ads. Buying local, 10% was never the goal. I mean, that's a pretty darn low bar. If your goal you're setting for yourself is that the state should buy local, 10% of its products local, that's way too low. Now, the state did say it exceeded that buy local measure of 10%, but they said the numbers include both food purchased from local farms and food purchased through local food distributors. So that means if a local truck pulls up with a local truck driver, they count that as buying local, regardless of whether the food being purchased is actually local. And they've heard from some of the legislators and others to the effect that that is not an accurate way to depict what buying local is. So that's kind of an aside, but it goes to the point that they talk about buying local, but they don't necessarily carry through on buying local.
How would you say that is that an accurate portrayal of how buying local is going? That we're at the 10%?
I don't know what percent we're at, only because these numbers are confusing, meaning these numbers put it much higher, but they include a lot of products that are purchased from local distributors. So it's very difficult to tell what the local products are. I'll tell you, when I went to Springfield, they complained about the lack of local products in that institution. A little while ago, about a year ago now, I got calls from the St. Albans Correctional Facility talking about the same thing. And they literally said to me, you know, we're looking out the window, we see cows everywhere we look, and we're serving powdered milk that comes from some faraway place. We're not serving local dairy products. Representative Zuckerman also went to the Chittenden County, I guess it's called, correctional facility, the one in Burlington, and said the same thing when he came back, that particularly he was talking about the meat, that the meat there was for frozen patties that were clearly not from Vermont. They were from some, you know, far off place in the Midwest. So we need to do a lot better to buy local, and that's important. And I mean, I'm more than willing to talk about that more another day as well, because we can talk a lot about how we could declare independence from industrial agriculture, extend the growing season, support efforts to really create an independent food supply here in Vermont. And I do want to talk about that, but I want to make it very clear today that the important thing that we're trying to get at is this kind of conversation that we're having should be happening with people around the state. The governor should not be claiming credit for initiating the buy local movement, not even a buy local program, but the movement. The fact that this governor would claim credit for starting a movement of any sort is so counterintuitive to his personality and to his background. Those of us who served on the NOFA board in the 1970s, who went to meetings, organized conferences, organized workshops, organized farmers markets, to have this governor claim credit for initiating the buy local movement is an insult to the people who have done that work. And I think he needs to be called on the carpet about it.